HIT. I guess I'll start with the questions. Start with Mr. Humphreys, if that's all right. Legislation we're considering would require the SBA theoretically to finally pay its guarantees promptly. What sort of benefit do you think this would have, and what are the real roadblocks from your perspective in actually making that happen here?
Well, the realistic roadblocks are the fact that you still need to realize on the collateral. If there's assets held as collateral, they need to be liquidated. Oftentimes the process of liquidation, the borrower hires an attorney, the bank hires an attorney, you go through the liquidation process. It's very difficult on the borrower. That can mean survival just in the liquidation of an SBA, a single SBA transaction. Oftentimes it tips them into bankruptcy, delays, and then once you go through that process, and who knows how long it takes, then you can make application to the SBA to realize on the guarantee. Currently that's held up, but if that's expedited, that'll help, but it doesn't help the real issues of the damage that can be done in the process.
Very good, thank you, thank you. If we're able to actually expedite things, do you feel more lenders would come into the program?
Based upon what I see right now, it could help somewhat. I don't really think it is a significant improvement in terms of gaining more participation in the program.
And of the proposals you mentioned, which do you think is the most important one that would get more people into the program?
Well, refinance of current debt is very large, and if it could be expedited to the point where upon default an application was made to the SBA, and the SBA then would start working immediately with the bank in advance of liquidation or in advance of bankruptcy to try to resolve the issue, and allow maybe a refinance, allow maybe restructuring of the transaction instead of just following strictly the rules of liquidation of existing collateral. That might be helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Upson, home builders, as I said before, have been hard to sit, it seems like, of anybody, although some of my small business friends might argue that. What do you think about the federal efforts so far? I mean, increasing the 7A guarantees and some of the fee eliminations. I mean, the dollar amount sometimes I think are a challenge, I would assume, for your men and women. So could you comment, please?
Well, the dollar amounts generally probably are a problem. Really just having specifically not being able to use the 7A program for development activity. That's going to be most of our members' needs as far as construction loans and development loans, and even in this market there are still some building going on that need to be financed some way. So expanding that so that it would include development activity would be very helpful.
Do you have a size in mind?
Not particularly. I mean, we could work with you on that. I don't certainly
a range, perhaps.
You know, I would have to get back with you on a specific size. You know, our members are all across the board, so to say a specific size on the 7A program would be difficult for me to do, but I'd be happy to get back with you on that.
All right, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Ms. Finch, in your testimony, you touched on the fact that it'd be nice to have the CDCs get expanded authority for liquidation. Kind of plays to some of the discussion that Mr. Humphreys had. Could you expand on that a little bit?
As I said in my testimony, yes, the law was passed to allow CDCs to do liquidation, and currently we just don't have the guidelines and regulation and policies from the SBA to really fulfill that. So we have, the CDC industry does deliver many other types of loan programs, and we have years of experience in doing liquidations. So we feel like we are competent and able to do that, but we do need to have regulations, SOPs, et cetera, so that we have the tools to move forward and do those liquidations and maximize recoveries on 504.
Okay, very good. Dr. Ranson, excuse me.
That's fine.
I'm not good at this. Health IT, that's a big deal. I mean, it was in the Recovery Act, as talked about by a number of groups here in Capitol Hill, and certainly as a veterinarian, I've tried to incorporate some of that into my little business world and seen great improvements. Is there any other particular aspects in terms of making sure that doctors are aware of opportunities that might be forthcoming with new legislation for them to access some capital, or at least have the opportunity to get this into their practices?
Oh, absolutely. The example I used in my testimony was a good friend of mine who was in my class, and the doctors want to adopt HIT technology. The problem is so many of us are small businessmen. Just finding that capital. Jeff, my friend, when he went out, he did a good search, and this was last year. It was going to cost $40,000 for 3 people in his office in order to buy the hardware to adopt HIT, and that's exclusive of buying licensing fees the next few years and things like that. The biggest thing about the current bill, HR 3014, is going to be a deferral on the loan for the first 1 to 3 years. When anyone adopts health information technology into their office, you can't go into it right away. When you've been using pad and paper to take notes about a patient, that's how we were trained. That's what I've done for the last 15 years. And it's a very innate thing. Having to put a computer between you and a patient, you need to learn how to use it, especially folks like me who aren't touch typists. So there's an incredible loss of productivity for the first 3 months. For me personally, when we adopted HIT, it took me about 2 years before I finally got up to my back to my original productivity. And it was, HIT is essential, and it's going to benefit the patients, and it's going to benefit the economy. The problem is that the local family doctor out there, it takes a while to get things going. So we are very excited, and we would love to see any type of deferral on these loans for the first 1 to 3 years, so that while our productivity is down, we're not having to pay it back. And an example would be, I buy my car. I just bought a new F-150. Okay, so I got a loan, and I'm paying it back right away. I'm driving the car right away. The problem, and I'm getting the benefit of that F-150. The problem is with HIT is, as soon as we adopt it and we do the research and we get the computer system in our office, we're not at that same productivity. We have to drop off, and we're not making as much money to pay off our loans. So the deferral is really important in that.
Very good. I certainly experienced that in my own veterinary world. It took me a couple of years to get back up to speed, but wouldn't do without it at this point in time. I'll defer now to Ranking Member Buchanan for some questions.
Thank